to die, like that fool Captain Hook, who thought he could match wits with me.
You're the Octopus.
You're right, Mr. Morgan.
Investigative reporting is being sort of squeezed out of the picture, and I think intentionally, because it tends to ruffle feathers. I mean, good investigative reporting does ruffle feathers, and it draws lawsuits, and it gets newspapers in trouble.
The global predator class raises its young to be as heartless, cruel, and rapacious as birds of prey. They believe in a sort of spiritual Darwinism, seeing their wealth, even, or perhaps especially, if it was inherited or stolen, as a sign that their God favors them above the common man, and thereby must approve of their actions whenever they subvert the common good, or use psychological sorcery on the masses to invert common sense. They think of themselves as predestined to be rich, and see others as predestined to become victims of their vampirism. It's the logic of Machiavellians and controlled psychopaths, the arrogance of the fortunate. Such would-be human sultans have no qualms about causing the destitution of the vast majority of human beings because, as Caitlin Johnstone points out, being a child of wealthy parents is like being born into a cult whose entire focus is reinforcing class solidarity for the ruling class. Their social culture, academic culture, family culture are all dedicated to building an elite commonality that excludes the common riffraff, while the rest of us have been focused on keeping our heads above water. Multi-millionaires, billionaires, and the national security states aligned with their interests often get suckered by their own hubris into cash-burning boondoggles, like the Amazon Fire Phone, a war in Afghanistan, or sending their C- student kids to Yale or Harvard. That's one of the reasons why they feel like they never have enough money, and they're always looking for ways to game the tax system. That taxpayer fleecing tendency reached an apotheosis with the slap-happy spectacle of two of our more self-aggrandizing and licentious billionaires flinging themselves into outer space aboard sexually suggestive rockets. But that was just a military-grade psychological operations campaign to get the public excited about space exploration again, so the Department of Defense can more easily disappear another few trillion from its annual balance sheets.
$2.3 trillion in transactions.
You can be outraged by the people running our country selling out our country to China, and you should be, but that's a very different thing from wanting to go to war with China, a war that we have no assurance we would win, to put it mildly. But in a memo to his troops, 4-star Air Force General Mike Minahan wrote this, quote, "My gut tells me we will fight in 2025. Jimmy Dore is the host of the Jimmy Dore Show. He joins us tonight to assess. Jimmy, what do you, should we be paying attention to a memo like this? What do you think it means?
What I think it means is that the United States is trying to provoke and sable-ratter with another nuclear power, right? We are now provoking a war with China, and who benefits? I'll tell you right now, your enemy is not China, your enemy is not Russia, your enemy is the military-industrial complex, which has been fleecing this country to the tunes of hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. How many times are we going to have a defense secretary say, hey, we can't account for $2 trillion in the Pentagon again, which is happened twice now in my lifetime. So again, people are being, the war machine cannot be stopped. Who's running this country? The war machine. It certainly isn't Joe Biden making these decisions. I would like to know who is making the decisions. And I just want to remind everybody, the United States is the world's terrorist. We just set the Middle East on fire in the last 20 years, and now we're doing a proxy war in Ukraine, which we provoked, NATO provoked, and it was just admitted that we provoked it by the former Prime Minister of Germany. And now we're trying to saber rattle with China, and they're predicting a war. Again, China's not going to invade us. China's not our enemy. We might have an economic war. That's what these are. These are economic wars. These are wars in Ukraine, it's about liquefied natural gas and making sure Germany and Russia never come together, because we fear Russia's natural resources and manpower, and we fear them getting together with Germany with their technology and their capital. And so that's why we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That's why we're doing the Ukraine war. This is all about hegemony, imperialism, and economics. And if there's a Marine somewhere, it's there because they're about to steal some natural resources from another country. As everybody's screaming about what a bad guy Putin is for invading Ukraine, the United States is currently occupying a third of Syria. And which third is that? It's the third that has the oil. And how do I know we're there to steal their oil? Because the President of the United States said so.
NASA and the private aerospace companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX have always been more about testing new rockets while circumventing treaties on ballistic missiles and developing new satellite technology, which will soon be capable of microwaving the entire planet. The hokey Star Trek fantasy
to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization
is just a cover story, despite Jeff Bezos making Trekkie claims to the contrary. When people find themselves in possession of too much money, it often leads them to dark places by engendering an insatiable need in them to one-up the other rich bastards. Ever since their overhyped rocket rides, Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos have been bragging about being the first billionaires in space. But in reality, all they did was pop up to roughly twice the height that an adventurous Google executive got to in a helium balloon in 2014. At their apogees, Branson and Bezos were only about as far from Earth as the distance of a limo ride from Midtown Manhattan out to Trenton, New Jersey. So ditch your sad rebel cowboy hat, little Jeff. All it says is that your billions have made you delusional.
There's not enough unifiers and too many vilifiers.
Since we're speaking of dark places and money-conjured delusions, it should be noted that throughout history, some rich people, Larry Hillblom and Jeffrey Epstein among them, have found that banging cash-strapped prostitutes isn't enough of a thrill. So to up the kink factor, they move on to raping little boys and girls.
I was raped repeatedly. I was raped 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. I was 10 years old when Liz Stein was being trafficked. I was 10. That is how long the sex trafficking ring has been going on for.
At the moment, there's a worldwide push, championed by the World Economic Forum, to lower the age of consent.
The World Economic Forum is now calling for the decriminalization of sex with children, arguing laws against age gap love, more commonly known as paedophilia, violates human rights. Rather than being a scourge, the paedophilia epidemic that's sweeping the world is actually nature's gift to humanity, according to Klaus Schwab, whose World Economic Forum has declared that paedophiles are being created by nature in increasingly large numbers for a reason. According to a research paper presented at the WEF in Davos, the paedophile phenomenon represents nature's attempt to cleanse the earth and save humanity from itself. Minor attracted people are far less likely to produce large numbers of offspring, according to academic data, and the so-called underage people they have so-called relationships with are statistically less likely to go on and become heads of large families themselves. This appeals to the WEF and their vision of destroying the family unit and depopulating the earth. The WEF, which has ordered mainstream media to begin pushing the narrative, wants to introduce an international policy that will require the majority of countries to decriminalize, or at the very least relax their laws against paedophilia. The New York Times, always at the forefront of the globalist agenda, ran an op-ed arguing that paedophilia is not a crime.
I'm all for letting consenting adults be as kinky as they want to be in the privacy of their homes, short of cannibalism and thrill killing. But any truly loving parent will insist that children need to be left out of it. As the artist Jenny Holzer observed,
it is telling that prisoners who are not known for their high standards ostracize and kill child molesters. No punishment is too severe. Child molesters have robbed the babies of their innocence, the most precious possession of childhood. Molestation leaves spiritual, emotional, and physical wounds that may never heal. The frightening aspect of the abuse is that molested children often become child molesters. The awful cycle must be stopped before any more children are defiled and ruined. Molesters should be rendered impotent.
the predator class is trying to get us to believe that it's more important to refrain from stigmatizing
minor attracted persons
than it is to protect the world's children from them. That's one sure way you can recognize psychopathic abusers. They twist logic so hard that it breaks.
The 65th Grammy Awards is sponsored by Pfizer.
Aside from celebrating Satan, the Grammys also celebrated gluttony.
For anyone who would side with those warmongering pedophiles, the words of the late Anthony Bourdain seem fitting. You are a terrible human being. You richly deserve to lose sphincter control and seep slowly, steadily, and fragrantly into your My Little Pony undies for the rest of your life. But as we all know, the karmic laws of this world rarely work that way. Instead, everyone on Epstein's client list gets protected, while stand-up guys like Anthony Bourdain get screwed over and suicided.
Many people will be at some level familiar with a term that recently emerged, which is minor attracted persons. Basically, an antiseptic sounding, legitimizing term that substitutes for pedophile, right?
Right.
So if you were going to normalize this, pedophile, of course, sets people on edge.
As it should.
And the idea is, in a world where people are, obsessed with the idea that, you shouldn't shame anybody for any kink they might have, then the idea is this sort of swaps this terrible thing in under the radar by describing it like any other sexual proclivity, right? So that's bad enough. And many of us have seen this trend and understood the hazard in it. But then there's sort of a next phase. And the new phase involves another term, adult attracted minor. This one is
even more evil.
It's even more evil, right? Because, the natural discussion about, wait a minute, minor attracted person, why did we stop saying pedophile, is not brought forth by this term, because now the focus is on the, sexual desires of children. And it does strike me as absolutely diabolical, and that there need to be a certain number of things just simply on the table so that people aren't caught off guard by this term and induced to normalize it, because really we have to reject terms like this. Now, I don't want to globalize too much. I will say in the last 5 years, I believe we have seen an epidemic of our failure to protect children from harm. And you see it across all sorts of domains, right? What we did over COVID, vaccinating children who weren't vulnerable to the disease with a highly novel inoculant was unconscionable, right? Even if there was no evidence of harm, there was no reason to expose them to something novel, and novel stuff hurts people, and so why would you even take that risk? And it was even worse than that, because we did know, or some people knew, that there were harms that were done. So anyway, my argument is going to be, these things are part and parcel of each other. There's some epidemic of failure to protect children, and the harms are not small, right? It is not a minor matter that you get an injection that causes myocarditis, right? That is a life-shortening disability. The breaching of the taboo against pedophilia is going to expose children to what is effectively a psychological maiming. A society that fails at this will fail, period, right? You don't protect the young, you're cooked.
What in the hell has a drag queen ever done to make you have so much respect for them and admire them so much? Other than put on makeup and jump on the floor and writhe around and do sexual things on stage. I have absolutely no idea why you would want that to influence your child. Would you want a stripper or a porn star to influence your child? It makes no sense at all. A drag queen performs in a nightclub for adults. There is a lot of filth that goes on, a lot of sexual stuff that goes on. And backstage, there's a lot of nudity, sex, and drugs. Okay? So I don't think that this is an avenue you would want your child to explore. They could explore dressing up at home, like we all did, like all gay boys did. We all dressed at home and we had a great time. We had a great time with our girlfriends, putting on makeup, trying on clothes, things like that. But to actually get them involved in drag is extremely, extremely irresponsible on your part. And I understand you might want to look like you're with it, that you're cool, that you're woke, that you're not a Nazi, that you're not a homophobe, whatever it may be. But you can raise your child to be just a normal, regular, everyday child without including them in gay, sexual things. And honestly, you're not doing the gay community any favors. In fact, you're hurting us, okay? We have already had a reputation of being pedophiles and being perverts and deviants. We don't need you to bring your children around.
Jeff Bezos owns Whole Foods. Now, why is this guy? 1 million moms launches boycott of Whole Foods over drag queen story hour event.
The reason we're seeing a push right now to expose children to drag queens, drag shows, drag queen story hour is because it's a stress test on society. They're testing to see the tolerance of society, measuring how far parents will allow their children to be pushed. And ultimately, it's a battle between good and evil.
This is what you get. This is what you get.
Let's watch a sitcom or something.
No! These aren't storm clouds. This is the fucking shit from East Palestine!
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves.
It's not hard for someone like me to envision old-school intelligence agency honey traps and blackmail schemes merging with brain-machine interface technology in the near future. That's why I'm convinced the recent trials of Ghislaine Maxwell and Charles Lieber are related in some mysterious way, but more for what they tried to cover up, rather than for what they allowed the public to see. As an example, how could you defend yourself if the FBI said your brain-to-AI cloud nanotransmitters had revealed that you were illegally plotting for Bill Gates to meet the same sordid sexual demise as Catherine the Great?
We can use brainwaves to fight crime.
Someone's thinking about crime, surely there's nothing wrong with stopping them, because no one ever thinks about doing something and then doesn't do it, so just arrest them. That's not already the plot of a major Hollywood blockbuster.
And what recourse would you have if, without due process, a Microsoft-programmed AI overlord turned you into a lobotomized puppet as punishment, using the vaccine-injected nanobots already swarming inside you to perform the deed?
It's a future that has already arrived.
Oh, well, we had a good run.
Artificial intelligence has enabled advances in decoding brain activity in ways that we never before thought possible.
Or moral.
There's a reason why Americans are now living under the rule of a corrupt and occultic national security state with drag queen overtones. But it's complicated. An implicate order has always given rise to our pop culture, news cycles, and socio-political trends. But we still have a few more layers of military-industrial media intelligence complex psyops to peel back before it can be laid bare.
What is predictive programming? Predictive programming is a subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented. If and when these changes are put through, the public will already be familiarized with them and will accept them as neutral progressions, thus lessening any possible public resistance and commotion. Predictive programming, therefore, may be considered as a veiled form of preemptive mass manipulation or mind control.
What is it, Chief? What's going on? The question I have to ask is, what if someone else unleashed that virus? What if someone else killed all those people? Would you really want to know who it was? Sure. Even if it was someone working for this government? That's my question. If our own government was responsible for what happened at St. Mary's and Three Waters, if our own government was responsible for the deaths of almost 100,000 people, would you really want to know?
You silenced members of Congress from communicating with their constituents. Now, who the hell do you think that you are?
The takeover and semi-liberation of Twitter by Elon Musk is a good place to start uncovering the fifth-generation warfare tactics being used against us by our own government. We should never forget, however, that like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, Musk is a top-tier Department of Defense contractor and almost certainly an intelligence agency frontman. For instance, his Starlink satellite system is a crucial intelligence tool in Ukraine's war against Russia, and Tesla has partnered with CureVac to develop mRNA technology that easily could be weaponized. Because of that, every major public move by Musk must first have the tacit approval of his deep state backers. That makes his controversial release of the Twitter files a limited hangout, at best. But the partial truths those files provide can still be instructive. The big reveal is that the U.S. national security state has a stranglehold on all the major social media platforms, and millions of U.S. tax dollars are being spent to censor and propagandize U.S. citizens.
In the past, censorship was almost the exclusive purview of the state or the church or corporations, but now it seems as if censorship has been monetized, and there are all these academics and think tanks who are given a kind of a well-funded government hammer, so they see everything as a nail of disinformation, and anything that deviates from the increasingly narrow orthodoxy is seen as fake news or disinformation that they have to counter. And of course they have a financial incentive now to do it, so censorship is being outsourced. So you have the Poynter Institute and Full Fact and all this sort of thing. And it's a little cottage industry of shutting people down. The way that censorship is working today in our Western so-called democracies is to actually just ruin people's careers and ruin people's lives.
Not to the best of my recollection.
Not to your recollection?
And
Great.
we know who you are, and we know where you live, and we know there's no need to forgive.
Twitter's senior ranks of content moderators included a plethora of former CIA and FBI agents, supposedly no longer taking orders from their intelligence community bosses, but come on, let's not be naive. They let pedophiles and kiddie porn purveyors run wild on the platform while censoring, with surgical precision, medical professionals who dared to question the government's claims that the mRNA jabs were safe and effective.
I did not go to medical school. You guys censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated doctors, doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silenced those voices.
At the same time, Twitter's crack team of deep state shills also kept themselves busy by banning or putting Russian disinfo tags on American cultural figures, including President Trump, who dared to ask why nothing was being done about Joe Biden's blatantly illegal foreign influence peddling, as evidenced on his crackhead son's laptop.
At Twitter, decisions were made to censor reporting leading up to the election. My question was, is it the White House view that these decisions were made appropriately in light of what has come out?
And we know who you are, and we know where you live, and we know there's no need to forgive.
If you called this the weaponization of government against its own people, you wouldn't be far off. The U.S. national security state is acting as if ordinary citizens are enemy combatants that must be subdued with mass mind control, state-sponsored poisonings, and new modes of political, economic,
you all will have implants,
and technological terrorism. If a deep state has a deep mind, it's in full-blown psychosis.
And there is a deep state indeed. I wasn't a believer, but everybody's a believer right now.
We should assume that anything happening at Twitter was just as bad, if not worse, at YouTube, Facebook, Wikipedia, and within the ranks of the search engine algorithm writing teams at Microsoft, Apple, and Google. James Howard Kunstler has a disturbing take on all this that should be considered, even if it will make many people uncomfortable. He wrote, "What also emerged in the tweet record of Yoel Roth, the company's chief censor, former head of trust and safety, begins to look like a gay mafia assault on the collective American psyche. Having gained official federal government sanction and protection, a statistically tiny homosexual demographic left in charge of the country's main public forum has been out for revenge against their perceived enemy, political conservatives. Americans disinclined to join the cheerleading for drag queen story hours, minor attracted persons, transsexuals in the military, and other LGBTQ cultural pranks. In the process, the gay mafia running the public dialogue supported every lie that the government, its protector, put out to keep the deep state happy and well-fed. Shocking, I'm sure, but there it is. That means the gay mafia also helped promote the most deadly psyop in world history. The COVID-19 scare and the mass vaccination crusade that will end up killing many millions worldwide after destroying the economies of the Western Civ nations. The whole package looks like an attempt to turn the world upside down and inside out. Is it any wonder that so many feel the USA has gone crazy?
You argue that minors should have access to Grindr, an adult male gay hookup app.
Hi there, my name is Mike Timlin, and up until a few days ago, I was a journalist working for Project Veritas. If you know about Project Veritas, then you know that they are willing to do whatever is needed to expose people that need to be exposed and expose the truth. What a lot of people don't realize about being a journalist with Project Veritas is that you have to do a ton of gay stuff, like a ton. It's so much, it's crazy. And sometimes you don't even get anything out of it. Sometimes it's just a dead end, and then you just did all this gay stuff. And I'm not even gay. I'm not against it, but I'm a happily married man, but I'm also a journalist. To get the biggest scoops, you gotta go on a lot of dates, usually gay ones. And, you know, they're not giving up info until the third, fourth, sometimes even fifth dates. But you have had to get your boots dirty. And that means a whole lot of sucking random dudes doing poppers. You're up till 6 a.m. just with tons of guys just getting banged out, all in the pursuit of truth. People don't know this, but 72% of all Pulitzer Prize winning journalists have done something gay to get that story. Most recently, I was actually the journalist who secretly recorded the Pfizer director spilling all his secrets about what they've been up to with COVID-19 and the vaccine. I cannot express to you enough how much depraved gay stuff I had to do on that first and second date in order to get him comfortable enough to come clean on that third date. So to all the young men out there who want a career in gotcha journalism, just let me tell you that you're gonna have to do a lot of gay stuff. A ton. It's honestly crazy how much gay stuff you have to do.
While it seems like the vaccines were approved quicker than my backstage costume change, the science has long been in the making. Like, for real. mRNA technology has been studied for decades. And guess what else? The COVID vaccine doesn't alter, interact, or interfere with your gorgeous genetic makeup or DNA in any way.
The most recent data demonstrates that you are more likely to become infected or have disease or even death if you've been vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated people. This is shocking to hear, but it is what the data are showing us. The data now show that these experimental gene therapy treatments can damage your children as well as yourself. They can damage your heart, your brain, your reproductive tissue, and your lungs. This can include permanent damage and disablement of your immune system.
Let's be clear, the gay mafia and or the virtue signaling woke mob never really controlled anything. They were only enablers, useful idiots. And now the tsunami of pro-diversity empowerment that they rode in on seems to be receding. The synchromistic scholar, Chris Knowles, has suggested that Elon Musk might have been tasked by the deep state to clear them out, to clean house.
Now, this is the interesting thing when you bring up Musk, is that I had talked about Ricky Gervais's excoriation of Hollywood, the Hollywood elites at the Golden Globes.
Yeah. So in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
The piece I wrote on that I called The Insanity Assassin. Like, maybe Gervais was tasked to start this process of beating back this woke contagion, which has just basically infested the entire city, right?
Yeah.
And I think that maybe Musk's job is to do that with big tech, because who did he fire? He fired all the diversity people, all the people who work for the CIA and FBI as quote unquote, moderators. They're all just there to enforce ideological discipline. They're no different than the old Roman censors, right? I mean, they're literally the same thing as the old Roman censors. The problem being is that they're all working in service of this insane demonic contagion, which is wokeness, which is just basically, a massive murder-suicide cult. So, no, honestly,
It's true.
It really is. If you look at the language that is spoken by the woke, it's no different than Germany in the early 30s or Rwanda in the 90s. It's all demonization in order to eliminate the undesirables. Or the Bolsheviks in the 20s. There are all these precedents that we can name for this, and it's always the same people that are targeted, like the small businessmen and the farm owners, and that kind of thing, what the Soviets called the kulaks. So, woke is, it's 100% CIA, it's 100% globalist, all these kind of things. But I think that the Frankenstein monster went on the rampage a little too long.
It should have been impossible to get the outspoken woke rebels and sexually liberated LGBTQ activists to twist themselves into free speech-hating establishment conformists. But that's what ended up happening. As my friend Darwin K observed,
these sold-out prostitutes to the predator class are protecting the most wicked, elitist, exploitative gluttons from justice, and they cannot be happier. So long as we permit such people to rule us, there will never be anything like self-determination, constitutional rights, liberty, or a remotely fair economic system.
For now, there's no use denying that we live in a thoroughly sick society. But there might be some hope in that. After all, it was Rilke who said, in his letters to a young poet, "Sickness is the means by which an organism frees itself from what is alien. So one must simply hope it to be sick, to have its whole sickness, and to break out with it, since that is the way it gets better." If the term alien can be used to describe the psychopathic hive mind, or egregore, of the military-industrial media intelligence complex that's now trying to remake humanity in its own cybernetic image, then yeah, Rilke might have been onto something there. Although we have yet to see many indications that we're getting better.
You maybe heard about Brooke Jackson's case in the US. She's suing Pfizer under False Claims Act that they defrauded the government. Well, Pfizer already filed motion to dismiss. The case hasn't been dismissed yet, but Pfizer already in court stated that, please dismiss this case, judge. We did not defraud the government. We delivered the fraud that the government ordered.
So who's really in charge? We know them by many names. Mr. Global, the Deep State, the Council on Foreign Relations, the World Economic Forum, the Enterprise, the Octopus, the Illuminati, the Club of Rome, the Fraternal Order of Mobbed-Up Frauds, Satan's Legions. Take your pick. But whoever they are, transnational corporate consolidation has made them more powerful and given them greater influence over world events than anything ever seen on Earth. Genghis Khan, Alexander, and Napoleon look like Rust Belt state governors in comparison. I can't decide if they're a bunch of rich, sarcastic assholes who get a laugh out of putting us on, or a cartel of demon-possessed maniacs who really mean it. I've been leaning more toward the latter category. How else would you explain such an obviously unfit specimen as Rachel Levine being appointed during an overhyped plandemic as Assistant Secretary at the Department of Health and Human Services, while also being selected as USA Today's 2022 Woman of the Year? How else would you explain the showcasing of an unapologetic military-industrial media intelligence complex stooge and convicted felon like Oliver North on Fox News telling us what to think about NATO's proxy war in Ukraine? Is it all an elaborate inside joke, or the worst sort of malice perpetrated by rich Luciferians against the rest of us? Love of money, of course, is the root of all kinds of evil in a world like ours that's governed by extortion and bribery. And there can be no doubt that evil metastasizes like a cancer, as Oliver North certainly found out. There was such a dense confluence of criminality around the Iran-Contra affair that it could almost be regarded as the black hole of deep state history, sucking in all the other scandals that came before and after it.
What's interesting about Khashoggi, of course, in the 80s is that he's sort of setting into motion what becomes Iran-Contra in terms of that scandal. He's probably best known for sort of bridging the trust problem between the people that want to sell weapons to Iran's government and the Khomeini-led government of Iran by making a large payment to Iran on behalf of, I believe, Israeli intelligence. So what's interesting in that context is by the time that payment is made, according to both Vicky Ward and Steve Hoffenberg, a former business partner of Epstein's, Khashoggi's banker, or a financial guy that he's hired for reasons we don't know, is Jeffrey Epstein. Khashoggi's main bank during Iran-Contra and in this period of time in general is BCCI. So it's very likely that Epstein knew a lot about BCCI. And Hoffenberg, he's dead now, but off the record alleged to at least one journalist I know of that Epstein did work for BCCI, but that's just one source, right? But there is some other corroborating evidence for a relationship there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Well, BCCI was really a private intelligence apparatus more than a bank. And as I note in the book, it was heavily involved itself, the bank, in the sex trafficking of minors. And the operation that BCCI was running in that regard has very eerie similarities to what Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell would later do in Palm Beach. And they were specifically trafficking minors to the elite of the United Arab Emirates and other unspecified VIPs of BCCI. But basically, BCCI was very much involved in money laundering and as an accessory to financial crimes of all sorts, allegedly founded by Pakistani intelligence with the involvement from the CIA, specifically former CIA Director Richard Helms. Iran-Contra, again, is really complex and has different components. So you have, the Latin America to US side of things, the drug running, the Contra support apparatus itself, and then you have the arms for hostages stuff with Iran and the Iran-Iraq war. But it's basically what Bill Casey was essentially trying to do with Iran-Contra, and I think the biggest takeaway that people should have from that scandal, it's not just arms for hostages, whatever. It was basically about Bill Casey wanting to have no oversight of CIA activities ever, and so this necessitated that he never had to ask Congress or the government for money for black ops ever again. So it was a way to create a self-financing black budget, which it necessitated engaging in crimes and laundering the money. And this was the drug trafficking and the arms trafficking and all of that. And this is sort of the base of the enterprise.
It's no wonder that Hollywood saw Khashoggi's yacht to film James Bond in Never Say Never. And this scene, shot in the satellite communications room, could only be patterned after Adnan Khashoggi.
This is my situation room. From here the world comes to me.
You could run a small government from here.
Oh no, I could run a large government from here.
Khashoggi's plans will go on affecting all of our lifestyles in the years to come. And one other thing is certain. He'll continue bringing new meaning to that phrase, rich and famous.
The target of psychological warfare is against the enemy's mind.
A government that allows its intelligence agencies to finance deep black operations with drug dealing, illegal arms smuggling, and child sex trafficking will eventually turn on its own people, first by lying to them, and then by killing them. A direct line can be traced from propaganda to democide. History has shown us that rude truth time and time again. But most people still refuse to see it. Aldous Huxley knew why. After all, his paternal grandfather, Thomas Henry Huxley, was a notorious eugenicist known as Darwin's bulldog. Huxley wrote,
"We protect our minds by an elaborate system of abstractions, ambiguities, metaphors, and similes from the reality we do not wish to know too clearly. We lie to ourselves in order that we may still have the excuse of ignorance, the alibi of stupidity and incomprehension."
A world government that uses worldwide psyops campaigns to rise to power will eventually task itself with killing off most of the world's people. Global propaganda shading into global democide. That's where we're at now. We've been there before. But during the First and Second World Wars, we didn't have the kind of data retrieval systems in place that could assemble the web of connections necessary to show the autistic savant-compiled structure of the slaughter. We do now, although for how much longer, no one can say. As Thomas Pynchon foretold in Gravity's Rainbow,
Bland, or his successors and assigns, could have brought programmers by the truckload to come in and make sure all the information fed out was harmless. Those like Slothrop, with the greatest interest in discovering the truth, were thrown back on dreams, psychic flashes, omens, cryptography, drug epistemologies, all dancing on a ground of terror, contradiction, absurdity.
So that's where we're at. The Twitter files have provided us with conclusive, definitive proof that social media platforms are being used by governments and other powerful organizations to gaslight the public with large-scale false narratives, while deplatforming, shadow banning, and censoring people who are trying to get at the truth.
Twitter was basically a subsidiary of the FBI.
The pattern was similar, although the technology was less advanced, during World War I, when you had the Rockefellers and their associated bankers trying to take over the world, using a trumped-up war and new vaccines to kill off a huge number of people. Sound familiar?
I'm sorry, folks. I'm not the fucking kumbaya, happy clapper, Wim Hof breathing, let's go do some Reiki, and I'm not on the fucking timeline. I'm manifesting a high vibe timeline. We are on a fucking timeline to fuckville.
But they wouldn't kill the sheeple, as Bill Burr famously said in the early days of the mRNA jab rollout.
You don't think the anti-vax conspiracy lines up?
That they're secretly trying to kill all of us for population control? No, because what they would do, they would be killing all what they call the sheeple. So all the people who be like, all the people that go, what are we supposed to do? Okay, they're gonna kill us. Right. And then just be left with all the Fonzies with their leather jackets who don't want to, who are too cool to listen to people. Like they got a nightmare. Who's gonna dig their ditches for them? So yes. It just doesn't make. I mean, if you want to say that they're gonna come up with something to thin the herd, I will go with that. But they would never do a pointed attack on people that are gonna do whatever they say.
They wouldn't kill the sheeple? Sure they would, Bill. They always have. When users have used you up, they don't care if you die. And the smarter, healthier animals are rarely the first ones to go when predators start thinning the herd. I know I've been going on about this sort of thing for far too long. So maybe it's best if you don't hear it from me. Will you dump the alibi of stupidity and incomprehension if you hear it from Vera Sharav?
I came to Nuremberg to provide historical context to the current global threat confronting our civilization.
She was invited to speak at Nuremberg not long ago. And in the wake of that event, she participated in this interview with Greg Carlwood at the Higher Side Chats.
Vera became a human rights activist focused on the dark side of medicine when her teenage son died from a side effect of a new antipsychotic medication that her family wasn't properly warned about. Today, she is the founder and president of the Alliance for Human Research Protection and has done some amazing things over the years when it comes to exposing crimes against humanity by the biomedical industry, unethical testing of drugs on vulnerable populations, and breaches of the Nuremberg Code, and we are lucky to have her. A passionate advocate for humanity, a voice for the voiceless, and an exposer of state-sponsored medical experimentation and scandal. Vera, welcome to the Higher Side.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, this is a real honor. You are a great example of just how impactful one person can be when they are motivated and dedicated, and I am just in awe of some of the things that you have helped expose. I know the biggest issue of our times is the COVID operation and the coerced global vaccination campaign, but there are so many lesser-known scandals that paved the way for how we got into this sort of situation. And I've heard you say that you see your experiences being taken from your home as a child and being thrust into a camp and the things we've experienced the past few years as part of a continuum. Is that right?
Unfortunately, yes. It's been said, that Germany lost World War II, but the Nazis didn't. And that's a very, very correct assessment, because although there were some of the perpetrators who were tried at Nuremberg trials after the war, most were not tried. Most were never held accountable, and they proceeded to continue to do the kind of work that they had been doing before. Some 1,600 Nazi scientists were brought to the United States under paperclip, it was called. And you see, the culture that made the Holocaust possible was imported to the United States. And they were brought here to actually train and teach American scientists and doctors some of the techniques they used. They did it at Fort Detrick and other military centers. They did it in hospitals, in mental hospitals, in prisons. So it grew rather than disappeared.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the same companies are still around. Wartime chemical companies become fertilizer and pesticide and even drug companies like nothing ever happened. And the more you dig, the more you start wondering, so what part of this apparatus did get dismantled? Seems like very little. But a lot of the people are still out there, the next generation carrying the torch in a lot of ways, and these companies have repeated scandals and repeated fines for deceptive marketing and all kinds of stuff, but they just keep on trucking. And for some reason, they still have the public's trust. It's really hard to understand how that trust hasn't completely eroded at this point.
The greatest perpetrator of misinformation during the pandemic has been the United States government. Misinformation that COVID was spread through surface transmission, that vaccinated immunity was far greater than natural immunity, that masks were effective, that myocarditis was more common after the infection than the vaccine. Not true. It's 4 to 28 times more common after the vaccine. That young people benefit from a booster. Misinformation. Our two top experts on vaccines quit the FDA in protest over this particular issue, pushing boosters in young, healthy people. The data was never there.
So many people are still in denial, even though there's a wide range of things that are happening now. And just before we got started, you were saying that you've looked at some parallels between COVID and the Spanish flu situation. What do you find interesting about the parallels between those two situations?
This really opens up a can of worms. So number one, it was not Spain from which this emanated. And it was not influenza. It was not a flu. An estimated 50 million people died. But the cause was an experimental meningitis vaccine produced by the Rockefeller Institute of Medical Research, which today is Rockefeller University. The first ones to be injected were the new military recruits. This was just as the United States was about to enter World War I. Some 6 million troops were vaccinated. In the United States, there was an aggressive campaign to vaccinate the civilians. It was conceded, quite a few studies have been done, but this particular study was co-authored by Anthony Fauci, acknowledging that 97% of the deaths were bacterial. Okay? It had nothing to do with the flu, it was just blamed. Now, yes, during the Spanish flu, they also used masks, had big campaigns about masks, and they had lockdowns, no schools, no houses of worship, everything closed. And guess what? In 1918, there was a study done with hospital staff comparing those who wore masks and those who didn't. And what do you think it showed? The masks made no difference in transmitting, it was bacterial meningitis. And so that study was buried when they resurrected masks and lockdowns, all the things that ruined the economy then, and did it again all these years later. Now, the general public, of course, wasn't aware of this and still doesn't know it. But you can't tell me that the scientists and officials at NIH, at NIAID, at the CDC, that they don't know.
Poof, coronavirus came from overseas, infecting folks across the land, Seattle, NYC.
They know the truth, but they have been lying to the public and using exactly the same methods to hold people in fear.
Yes.
One of the first people to identify the Rockefeller experimental vaccine as the cause of death was Dr. Eleanor McBean. She was 13 years old during the epidemic. Her family did not take the vaccine. And she wrote about how her parents went from house to house to those who were infected because you couldn't get a doctor. And they tried to help people. And she said, but interesting, none of our family ever got either the flu, well, because it wasn't the flu, but we didn't get infected. And surely, they were coming from infected homes. They were fine. Now, this is interesting. She became a doctor, and she wrote several books. The first one is called The Poison Needle, and in that one she describes and identifies the meningitis experimental vaccine as the culprit. And she says, only those who were vaccinated died.
You mentioned that countermeasures are not pharmaceuticals, therefore they are not regulated by the FDA. But I think that many people in the public, your average person, would believe that the FDA is regulating these injections. So is the FDA impersonating the regulator?
Exactly. They have been playing a key role in this entire lie and propaganda operation. This is a very sophisticated military-grade propaganda operation unleashed on the Americans by the US government, but also on the entire world by US government and their global collaborators. So the most important piece of the propaganda is to lie to the public about COVID being a health event. It's not a health event, it's a deliberate deployment of biowarfare agents.
Let me tell you the real tyranny here. I have a 20-year patent trail and a 20-year peer-reviewed paper trail, starting from 1998 until present day, of how COVID-19 is a man-made weapon of mass destruction. Starting, and there's one name associated with the development of every stage, is Dr. Ralph Baric from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He was funded by the National Institute of Health in his research. In 1998 and 99, he perfected a technology called cross-species transmissibility. In other words, taking a virus of one species, manipulating it, and have it be able to infect another species. And there's peer-reviewed papers on that and patents. In 2002, he was able to take a coronavirus and change its payload to destroy human lung tissue. And there's a patent associated. But they did not manipulate a bat coronavirus to infect human beings yet, which they could have. So they did like 2 parts of a bomb, but they didn't complete the bomb. And you have to ask yourself why, which I have an answer. But in 2015, in Dr. Ralph Baric and Dr. Zheng Li in Wuhan, because by then, gain-of-function research, which is a cynical term, which means to take a benign virus and convert it into a weapon of mass murder, that's what gain-of-function research is, was outlawed in America. So they got outsourced to China and funded by the NIH. And so in 2015, Dr. Ralph Baric and Dr. Zheng Li published a paper that explained that they were able to take a bat coronavirus and make it infectious to human beings. So the bomb was completed. So the question is, why now? So something happened in between. In March 2020, I developed my treatment protocol. What happened was I saw a video called MedCram on YouTube. MedCram episode 34, Dr. Schultz, where he presented a paper about the use of zinc ionophores and zinc, or hydroxychloroquine and zinc, and its theoretical possibility to stop RNA viruses from replicating. So I said, wow, that's really cool. And so I used that paper as a foundation to build my treatment protocol. What I didn't know until 2.5 months ago, and that paper was from 2010. What I didn't know was that that paper was written by Dr. Ralph Baric. The reason why the bomb wasn't completed in 2002 was if it was to be released then, it would be indiscriminate. It would kill everyone. It may even kill them. They weren't interested in dying. They had an instinct for self-preservation. Whatever their plan was, it wasn't to die for themselves. So they needed a way to defuse the bomb for those that they want. Now, what's interesting was that when doctors like myself stumbled across this technology and proved that it works, there was a choreographed, orchestrated media campaign and political campaign to marginalize these drugs, to vilify these drugs, to scare people. One of the accessories to this genocide, Dr. Rick Bright, who sabotaged President Trump's order to make hydroxychloroquine available to every American through the national stockpile of medicine, he literally sabotaged that and was fired for insubordination, now works as a director at the Rockefeller Foundation. So there's a theme, okay? The theme is that this family and many families like them are demonic at best. They view the rest of us as a resource, an expendable resource. It's like the distillation product of evil. And what its intention is also there's this superhuman class, which are the self-anointed, let's say, evolved in higher levels of consciousness people. They believe so. I don't think there's anything evolved by them. The New World Order is not some evolution in humanity. It's a devolution back to paganism and idolatry and child sacrifice. There's nothing new here. They just use a cool branding method to make it look New Age, New World Order. They're returning to the paganism of yesteryear. One of the, let's say, prophets or theological inspiration is a Jew. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. Now, he's a short little guy, but he's a bad boy, and I'll tell you why. He's called the prophet by Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and Obama praised him as his favorite author in an interview on CNN. So this guy has the ears of the most powerful degenerates on the planet. And what does he say? And I'm gonna say to you verbatim what he's preaching. The prophet. Humans are hackable animals. If you can hack an animal, you could engineer it with intelligent design, but not some divine intelligent design, but by human intelligent design, but we are now gods. There's no such thing as free will. There's no such thing as a soul. And COVID-19 is my favorite. COVID-19 will mark an inflection point in history when digital 24/7 surveillance went under the skin. This is their stated agenda, it's not mine.
Hitler wrote Mein Kampf many years before he took power. The essence of evil is something very interesting. It doesn't hide its intentions. It says it outright. People just don't listen.
As I stand before you today, I'd like to address some of the tyrannical shit I'm going to do as king. First off, America, we're taking you back. You cunts have been free for far too long. I will not have it. Australia, you're going to become a massive fuck-off prison again. Fuck you cunts. India, you're safe. We don't really want you back anyway. Also, I'm bringing that thing back where, like, the king gets to fuck your wife the day you get married, if he wants to. That was a cool rule. Anyway, cunts, adios. I'm out of here.
I've heard it said that evildoers need public consent to dodge the karmic fallout from their evil deeds.
Satanists, people who worship Satan, believe in karmic retribution. They believe that they can suffer the consequence of lying and tricking you. So the very simple premise is this. If I sell poison apples, and I write apples, and you come and eat one, I poisoned you. But if I sell poison apples, and I have a sign that says apples, they're poison, and you come and eat one, you committed suicide. I haven't murdered you, you've committed suicide.
That's what Satanists believe.
Satanists believe by telling you what they're doing, they don't have any karmic retribution. I'm not responsible for the concept. I'm not responsible for all the negative fallout from my actions if they understood what I was doing and allowed me to do it. This is why they show you and tell you what they're doing. If I show you and tell you that we are pedophiles and you continue to buy our products, then you're supporting pedophilia and you're obviously okay with us being pedophiles. The people who are in charge of these brands and in charge of the Western world and in charge of the Matrix genuinely worship Satan. When you understand the idea of karmic retribution, you can apply that to so many scenarios. They're doing this with everything. Karmic retribution isn't just about Balenciaga. Let's look at the recent scam of COVID. They made it very clear to you it was bullshit. They made it very clear that the virus isn't going to hurt you.
They made it clear that they didn't listen. They disobeyed the mask laws.
Yeah, they made it very clear to you it was all stupid. So that when you still did it, they could say, well.
How dare you?
A simpler explanation might be that evil just likes to brag. Regardless of the motives, Dr. Zelenko had it right. The spiritual forces of evil tend to tip us off to their plans far in advance. If you know where to look, it's not hard to see what the hell's going on. Some, however, prefer to live in denial.
You know, Mother Lucille, there's a psychological concept known as denial that I believe you're evincing. It's when a thought is so hateful that the mind literally rejects it.
You are a worse psychiatrist than you are a son-in-law, and you will never get work as an actor because you have no talent.
Well, if she's not going to say anything, I certainly can't help her.
Others just want to play through without getting distracted.
Yeah, you gotta love the focus here with the driver on 13. A deer is sucking off another deer in the background. It does not faze him as he rips that down the middle. That's about 315.
But a growing number of us now know that those sinister forces at work in the shadows will only grow stronger unless they're hauled out into the light of public consciousness. As Martin Luther King put it, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. But let's be candid. Evil has become so pervasive at the highest levels of society that arming ourselves against it with only light and love often feels like bringing a bouquet of hydrangeas to a ninja's sword fight.
This is cultural. This affects the world we now live in. What is straight? What is gay? It's all a big sliding spectrum, isn't it? Because if you're going to sit here and go, oh, no, it's gay to bang Megan Fox with a dick, I counter that argument. It's gay to bang Hulk Hogan with a pussy. So which one is it?
this world, oh baby, your mind is clear as the air. Time passes. You learn to walk and talk. Time passes. You learn right from wrong. Time passes. You leave home seeking a life of your own. Hey, I'm telling you the natural facts for what it's worth. You make your own heaven and hell right here on earth.
Listen to me, that's time passes. Hey, and your values change.
This is my and Emily's little boy, little Shawnee Jr.
I have this strange twilight memory of my father taking me for a boat ride on the Kings River when I was a boy. This was back in California, during the time when the Manson murders and the Zodiac Killer were so much in the news that even a small child could understand that the world was riddled with malevolence, conspiracies, and untruths. But I was with my father, so I felt safe, protected. As we drifted downriver, I remember seeing animals watching us from the high banks, as if we were small-town celebrities in a passing parade. First an owl, then rabbits and sheep, a curious fox, and finally, a grizzly bear rearing up on its hindquarters, as if to wave to us. I know a few things now that I didn't know then, so I can say with near certainty that grizzly bears didn't live anywhere near the river running through our hick farming community in those days. Hence my memory of that boat ride with my father, still so vivid after half a century, must surely contain some cross-pollination from a dream or some childhood fever hallucination. Or perhaps I've conflated it with fragmentary scenes from a movie, or a dime store jigsaw puzzle of anthropomorphic bears dancing in a moonlit forest that I put together one foggy Christmas Eve. To say that my memories are immutable and everlasting recordings of factual events would be to deceive myself. Often, they're more like oniric deepfake videos, or stories I tell myself with an error-prone internal version of ChatGPT. Something else I can say now with near certainty is that all parents, no matter how loving, are incapable of sheltering their sons and daughters from the manifold evils of this world.
Figured I was gone, huh?
Run, hide in the staircase. Run quick!
Encountering evil seems to be an inescapable part of the bargain of being born here.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time. That is so...
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease.
We have to burn everything that can't touch before the virus makes us paranoid. Homer! Stop burning! They have a vaccine!
All right, we'll get the vaccine.
Last year's film, White Noise, was about a train wreck that poisons a small town in Ohio. This is the very same story now playing out in real life. Within a year of White Noise's release, the actual event occurs in real life, in Ohio. In the book Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, Michael Hoffman describes a mind control technique known as the revelation of the method. And he writes that when the revelation of the method is performed in a veiled manner, accompanied by certain occult signs and symbolic words, and elicits no meaningful response of opposition or resistance from the target, it is one of the most efficacious techniques of psychological warfare and mind rape. A lack of response to an action is often taken as an approval of that action. And there is an old Latin proverb that says, "He who is silent when he ought to have spoken and was able to, is taken to agree." Silence is considered by many to be a form of consent. And so it is through a veiled performance of the revelation of the method technique that these dark occultists believe they are gaining our consent, what we know as predictive programming. With predictive programming, the minds of the masses are impregnated with visuals of a major event before it happens. Because these images are delivered to us through entertainment, they elicit no meaningful response of opposition or resistance, and so we accept them, subconsciously. And when the event happens in real life, it is already familiar and acceptable to us, as if that's just the way it is. It's a very powerful mind trick, and the solution is quite simple. We need to stop living as spectators of someone else's reality. We need to start creating our own reality.
I'm Tom Cruise and I'm running for President of the United States. Why vote for me? I'm not just your everyman. I've literally been every man. I've been a Navy pilot, a lawyer, and a Navy lawyer. My opponents will say I was a pimp in high school. It's true. But I grew up fast in NASCAR country and started a small business as a sports agent to set a better example. I know foreign diplomacy because I fought alongside the samurai. And I'm proud to serve our country, defending our planet against aliens twice. No, 3 times. I know this country top to bottom, inside out. From here to here. Because I've lived its history. Literally, I did. It's a vampire.
What'll we do? Oh, Chicken Little, you've got to help us.
Psst. Run to the cave.
In order to get everybody to a managerial technocratic society, everybody needs to be in Plato's cave. It needs to be remaining in the matrix, to be remaining fixed upon the shadows and the phantasms that dance upon the cave wall.
Dinner is served.
Don't worry, folks. This all turns out all right.
Delicious.
Hey, wait a minute. This isn't right. That's not the way it ends in my book.
Oh, yeah? Don't believe everything you read, brother.
Don't worry, folks. This all turns out all right. Don't worry, folks. Don't worry, folks. This all turns out all right.
On the day before he died, the film critic Roger Ebert passed a note to his wife Chaz. "This is all an elaborate hoax," the note read. He was using a computer to talk by then, after losing part of his jaw to cancer.
Want to hear the new voice?
Okay.
They said I talked too much, and now I still can.
Chaz asked him, "What's a hoax?" And he told her that this world, this place we find ourselves in, was all an illusion. She thought he might be confused, that he was getting too much medication, that he might be hallucinating, but he wasn't confused. He patiently typed away, using the computer to explain that he had been visiting another place. It wasn't heaven, at least not in the way we think of heaven. In Chaz's words, he described it as a vastness that you can't even imagine. It was a place where the past, present, and future were happening all at once. It seems fitting somehow that a man who saw movies as microcosms of life itself and famously made a career out of giving a thumbs up or thumbs down to those fabricated multiverses would arrive in the end at the conclusion that this world is also just as phony as any Hollywood production. Ebert didn't stick around long enough to review Noah Baumbach's 2022 film adaptation of Don DeLillo's 1985 novel, White Noise, but it would have been fascinating to hear Ebert's thoughts from his new cosmic perspective about the uncanny synchronicities between the book, the movie, and the actual airborne toxic event that occurred after a train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio on February 3rd of 2023. In case you don't already know, White Noise was shot almost entirely in Northeast Ohio, and several East Palestine residents who had appeared in the film as extras were later evacuated from their town under a cloud of dioxins in what we call real life.
Let's move on to a movie now that's one of the most brilliant, weird, and unusual American documentary films I've seen in a long time.
Did you know these were Roger Ebert's dying words? It's all an elaborate hoax. It's all an elaborate hoax.
Those who control the data control the future, not just of humanity, but the future of life itself.
The universe is always mumbling threats that show up in our lives as signs and portents. Weird intuitions that arise from synchronicities and prophetic dreams should be respected. But what are we to make of a book published in 1985 that eerily became reality in 2023? Was Don DeLillo a literary Cassandra of sorts, able to see into the future? Had his higher self, the all-seeing eye of infinite consciousness, been granted special access to that vastness that Roger Ebert spoke of? The place where the past, the present, and the future all get jumbled together in an eternal now? Or was DeLillo just a hit-and-run victim of retro-causality, which explains how future events can have an impact on the past, at least according to certain theoretical physicists, like my old pen pal Jack Sarfati, who served as inspiration for the time-traveling Dr. Emmett Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd, in the Back to the Future movie trilogy. There is, however, a more straightforward explanation, one that doesn't rely on retrocausality, psychic divination, or an all-access pass to the Akashic records. I would posit, instead, that the deep state, or a demonic demiurge, gets some sick kicks from making real events follow the plots of old books and movies.
Quite a budget crunch for President Trump.
This sort of thing has happened before. Most of us can rattle off at least a few examples. One of my favorites is the sinking of the Titanic in 1912, which seemed to follow the plot of a novel written 14 years earlier by Morgan Robertson, called the wreck of the Titan, or futility. It gets even weirder when you look into the theory about how the Titanic was deliberately sunk in an insurance scam to save J.P. Morgan's financial empire. The Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic, had been in 2 serious collisions within months of her launch, and was so nautically fucked that the cost of repairs could have bankrupted Morgan, who, like all great swindlers, past and present, was highly leveraged in shady deals with other people's money.
The Titanic and the Olympic were built for the White Star Line by Belfast shipbuilders Harland and Wolff, whose chairman was Lord Pirrie. Harland and Wolff built ships almost exclusively for the White Star Line, which was acquired in 1903 by American financier J. Pierpont Morgan's International Mercantile Marine. This was part of a drive to create a monopoly on the lucrative North Atlantic passenger trade.
So the Olympic swapped names with the Titanic, and the Olympic, disguised as the Titanic, sailed out to meet her iceberg end, just as described in Robertson's book. There's also a theory that Morgan lured 3 of his financial rivals onto the ship: Isidor Straus, Benjamin Guggenheim, and John Jacob Astor IV, and thereby lured them to their deaths, because they were opposed to the creation of the Federal Reserve, which Morgan helped usher into existence the following year, to his own great benefit. There's no telling how much of all that is true, but it certainly makes a good story.
In keeping with White Star tradition, both ships had their names engraved into the upper bow plates in letters 4 foot high. Examination of the wreck and the name Titanic shows that it is made of iron letters which have been riveted onto the original bow plates. With the passage of time, 2 of the letters have dropped off and been lost forever in the sediment of the seabed. At the place where they once were, engraved into the hull, are the letters M and P.
If, as Roger Ebert insisted, there's a higher frequency realm beyond Earth's mundane 3D reality channel, there could be a lower frequency realm as well. A timeless, unified realm above, energized by love and eternal joy. And a debased, divisive realm below, a glittering black, diamond-hard underworld realm, energized by hatred, pain, and sorrow. A poetic sensibility demands such juxtapositions. As Fernando Pessoa wrote in his legendary poem, Tobacco Shop.
Always one thing facing the other. Always one thing as useless as the other. Always the impossible as stupid as reality. Always the mystery of the bottom as true as the shadow of the mystery of the top.
At the risk of oversimplifying, I'm going to suggest that when we slip into our meat suits upon arrival in this fraudulent Newtonian space-time matrix that we know as Earth, we've just finished traveling as spiritual beings from another realm beyond space and time. This world, then, could feel like either a punishment or a reprieve, depending on our realm of origin. If we've come from a nightmare-fueled lower realm, Earth might seem like a resort, or a depravity-themed amusement park, where every amoral desire can be indulged. But if we've descended from a higher realm, at our own spiritual risk, for the sake of others, Earth might appear to us as a prison planet, where cruelties are inflicted even, or perhaps especially, on the innocent. Pessoa speaks to this also.
Today I am defeated, as if I knew the truth. Today I am clear-minded, as if I were about to die, and had no greater kinship with things than to say goodbye.
Modern man has been boiled in the dark waters of materialism. The god of modernity is a masturbating dragon wrapping itself ever tighter around the rational mind. In the middle of that Ouroboros is your conscious reality, constrained on all sides by a state of disenchantment. The germ of wonder sterilized, all arranged by powerful men that were fully enchanted, that practiced magic and used it to construct this current global order, preserving for themselves a belief in a vast, divinely constructed cosmos. Since at least the 15th century, a network of hostile economic elites have been working to transform humanity into a programmable golem. Openly celebrating their efforts, you simply insist on forgetting because you are insane, seduced by the theater of the present.
Chase Miss Pretty Lies.
Face the bad time.
And yet I fight.
When I was living in Seattle during the 1990s, I met the author David Foster Wallace at a book signing. 20 years later, my memory of that encounter became the starting point for an essay called David Foster Wallace and the Horror of Life.
If I can't be my own, I feel better dead.
I wrote it while I was going through a hellish divorce. One of the lines I came up with, born out of experience, simply stated, torment is pretty much a given in this world. Continuing with that theme, I explored the Gnostic idea that our world might be ruled by a persecuting interdimensional mafia of mind parasites known as the Archons. According to the Gnostics, who wrote some of the earliest books known to exist, collected in the Nag Hammadi library, the Archons are a mimic species. They're inferior to humans because they lack enoia, or creative will, and epinoia, or creative imagination. In other words, they lack the divine spark of those who belong to higher realms, so they can only imitate, never create. They're replicators rather than innovators, but they're really good at fooling us. As I observed in one of the essay's many Wallace-inspired footnotes, the classic Sethian Gnostic text, the Apocryphon of John, tells us that the Archons delight in deception. Their preferred method is called antimimon, or counter-mimicry. In other words, they might not be able to create anything new, but they can copy things that already exist and then invert their original meaning or purpose. It's like Orwellian newspeak mixed up with reality TV.
Got hairy legs.
They take something that seems organic and real and turn it into something manufactured and fake. Kind of like those genetically modified seeds from Monsanto that sprout once and then go sterile, so you have to buy them again every year. Or the USA Patriot Act, which eroded the very liberties that the original U.S. patriots fought for during the founding of this country. Voltaire could have been warning us about the Archons when he wrote, "Anyone who has the power to make you believe absurdities has the power to make you commit injustices."
The program you are about to hear is fiction, science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction.
I may be dead by the time you watch this. Very possibly are. You don't know who's the man who's making things he wants you to see. Destroy your television sets. Now. Just listen to no orders. That's all I can tell you at this point.
I'm not asking anyone to take archons literally. Consider this a thought exercise. Why do celebrated artists and intellectuals like Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, and David Foster Wallace end up killing themselves? Why did the world-famous big tech company that began its egregoric existence with the motto, "Don't be evil," turn into, arguably, one of the most evil corporate entities on the planet? Ask yourself why, in the words of Michael Elner, everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Why do doctors destroy health? Lawyers destroy justice. Psychiatrists destroy minds. Scientists destroy truth. Religions destroy spirituality. And governments destroy freedom. If nothing else, this documentary should have proven by now that all those groups use the COVID-19 psyop to perpetrate
the greatest crime against humanity in the history of our species.
Ask yourself why major media outlets seem so bent on destroying information by hiding it and censoring those who speak truth to power.
What happened with Building 7? Anything you're not allowed to ask questions about is something you should be asking more questions about. As far as I'm concerned.
Whenever an authoritarian regime or an idiocracy attempts to suppress information, it's not because that information doesn't contain any truth. It's because the truth it conveys is crucial to your survival and/or dangerous to those in power. There's a reason why a brutal, centuries-long campaign was waged to exterminate all Gnostics and make it seem as if they'd never existed. And it wasn't because they were evil people. Injustices can't be corrected if you're not allowed to see them, or if you refuse to see them. And you can't escape a tyrannical system of thought control without first acknowledging that you're a target of that thought control. Highly suppressed information has a higher than average chance of helping you, provided you can get past the cognitive dissonance it so often engenders in the uninitiated. That's not always easy. Once you realize you're being lied to by the people you entrusted to define your reality, then you have to start questioning everything they've ever told you. All of your intellectual foundations could come crashing down like the Twin Towers on 9/11, or the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, which had a predictive programming novel of its very own, courtesy of Oklahoma Governor Frank Keating's brother, Martin. A lot of people would rather not face anything like that, even though maintaining their willful ignorance requires enormous effort. So they parrot whatever the mainstream media tells them and call truth-tellers disinfo agents. They just want to get on with the soul-crushing servitude of their day-to-day lives.
As you look around and you see so many people break under the strain, under the downward pressure of whatever this is that we're going through, and you look with disdain and sadness as you see people you know become quislings, you see them revealed as cowards, you see them going along with a new thing, which is clearly a poisonous thing, a silly thing, you know, saying things you know they don't believe because they want to keep their jobs. If there's a single person in this room who hasn't seen that through George Floyd and COVID and the Ukraine war, raise your hand. Oh, nobody? Right, you all know what I'm talking about. And you're so disappointed in people. You know, you are, and you realize that the herd instinct is maybe the strongest instinct. I mean, it may be stronger than the hunger and sex instincts, actually. The instinct, which again is inherent to be like everybody else and not to be cast out of the group, not to be shunned, that's a very strong impulse in all of us from birth. And it takes over, unfortunately, in moments like this, and it's harnessed, in fact, by bad people in moments like this, to produce uniformity. And once you say one true thing and stick with it, all kinds of other true things occur to you. The truth is contagious. Lying is, but the truth is as well. And the second you decide to tell the truth about something, you are filled with this, I don't want to get supernatural on you, but you are filled with this power from somewhere else. Try it. Tell the truth about something. You feel it every day. The more you tell the truth, the stronger you become. That's completely real. It's measurable in the way that you feel. And of course, the opposite is also true. The more you lie, the weaker and more terrified you become. We all know that feeling. You lie about something and all of a sudden you're a prisoner of that lie. You are diminished by it. If you're telling me that abortion is a positive good, what are you saying? Well, you're arguing for child sacrifice, obviously. It's not about like, oh, a teen girl gets pregnant and what do we do about that? And victims of rape, I get it. Of course I understand that, and I have compassion for everyone involved. But when the Treasury Secretary stands up and says, you know what you can do to help the economy? Get an abortion. Well, that's like an Aztec principle, actually. There's not a society in history that didn't practice human sacrifice. Not one, I checked. Even the Scandinavians, I'm ashamed to say. It wasn't just the Mesoamericans, it was everybody. So like, that's what that is. Well, what's the point of child sacrifice? Well, there's no policy goal entwined with that. No, that's a theological phenomenon. And that's kind of the point I'm making. None of this makes sense in conventional political terms. When people or crowds of people, or the largest crowd of people at all, which is the federal government, the largest human organization in human history, decide that the goal is to destroy things, destruction for its own sake. Hey, let's tear it down. What you're watching is not a political movement, it's evil.
3 days after Tucker Carlson gave that speech at the Heritage Foundation, he was fired from Fox News, despite being the most popular primetime TV news host in America, with an audience that averaged 10 times the size of his rivals at CNN. Telling the truth has consequences in a media industry that profits from lies. The archons jerking the neurons in Rupert Murdoch's parasite-riddled brain must have been furious.
When you look at me and you're like, yeah, of course they're part of the means of control. I'm like, that's obvious to you because you're 28, but I just didn't see it at all, and I'm ashamed of that.
Isn't that what the media tries to do, though?
It's their only purpose.
Right.
They're not here to inform you, really. Even on the big things that really matter, like the economy and war and COVID, like things that really matter that will affect you. No, their job is not to inform you. They are working for the small group of people who actually run the world. They're their servants, they're their Praetorian Guard, and we should treat them with maximum contempt because they have earned it.
The Gnostic texts gave me the impression that the archons can ride certain susceptible individuals, like Henry Kissinger, George Soros, and Bill Gates, in the same way that night hags were said to ride folktale-fearing peasants. Those skin-suited proxies of the archons function as superior slaves directing lesser slaves, i.e. the rest of us, to fulfill the archontic agenda of maximizing terror, idiocy, mayhem, emotional trauma, and abject violence in an inverted totalitarian slave system that we've been tricked into calling democracy.
Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests. I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
According to the Gnostics, the archons can't be outwitted or defeated in this world because they operate outside our fraudulent 3D Cartesian reality. They can see into the future and rearrange the past, which explains why they're so good at predictive programming.
Raining debris on all of us.
The concept of archontic contagion makes sense of every sad, screwed-up situation in the entire simulacrum psychosis spectacle. From crack whores with high expectations to the self-styled masters of the universe pushing their disaster fascism agendas. Perpetual warfare, loveless marriages, rampant addictions, blatant injustices, the steep rise in autism and chronic diseases, confused kids being sacrificed on the altar of transgender ideology, and the rich straight up fucking stealing from the poor. All of it can be explained by archontic contagion. But that doesn't absolve anyone of personal responsibility. As human beings who are superior to the archons,
A complete farce.
as the Gnostics would remind us, we have the ability to become mindful, impartial observers of the archontic influences in our lives and to act against them. Any impulses toward greed or spewing filth are to be avoided, for example. Some willingly succumb to a parasitic, borderline psychotic, archontic mindset, which makes their selfish whims and ego gratification predicated on other people's misery. Those who are stronger reject that vile mind screwing and consciously decide to help spiritualize the world, doing what they can to stop the web of life from being ripped to shreds, and thereby rising toward their true human potential.
But we tortured some folks.
None of us will always make the right choices, but we can improve our success to failure ratios, increasing our chances for freedom, truth, and autonomy. Once we have a clear understanding that an archontic system wants control of our perceptions from the moment we're born, and right on through every single hour, until we die, and perhaps even beyond death. Just don't beat yourself up if you can't break free of that degrading system forever, right away.
One giant revolutionary act that you can do is you can just start loving yourself the way that you are right now. I mean, that's a wild idea for a lot of people because they look at themselves in the mirror and they think, look, I have love handles, or they think I drink too much. There's always something that you need to change about yourself in the most drastic way as soon as possible, all the time. Right. And so if you stop that, if you just give yourself a break, man, a real break, because it's like, let's really consider our situation here. We got shot out of a pussy into time, and we're gonna die. Think about that. We're going to die. We are dying right now. And everything that you have is going to go away. And everyone that you know is going to turn into dust. This is not the easiest class to be taken. And it's important to acknowledge that, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us.
Can't tell me. Look at his forehead. This is bullshit. That's a mask. That's a skin mask. It ain't normal. Look at it. Bullshit.
We're on the precipice of being unable to trust anything we see online. The ability to manufacture fake content is outstripping the ability to discern what's real. Even the usually insightful celebrity psychologist, Jordan Peterson, was fooled into thinking that a fake British fetish porn clip on WeChat was recorded from inside a real Chinese dick-sucking factory. We've entered a new era of algorithm-propelled propaganda that uses paid-to-lie social media influencers to propagate persuasive mini-essays,
I need you to be my apostles.
while also duping us with more subtle tools of mass mind manipulation.
I'll show you the life of the mind!
Like deepfake news clips, photoshopped thirst traps, and generative AI parody videos.
What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with Balenciaga.
Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those who don't.
You have to understand Most people are not ready to be unplugged. The body cannot live without the mind.
We are Balenciaga.
Captain, they are not wearing Balenciaga. I suggest we go to red alert and fire photon torpedoes.
We can't simply give them Balenciaga. That would violate the Prime Directive.
I do not have emotions. I'm a model.
I am a male model, not a male prostitute. Modeling just sucks. They made me take off my top. I'm not modeling anymore for the two of you. Well, I guess I just have my first taste of the filthy side of this business.
In the metaverse, everyone will only wear Balenciaga.
We now know that our own governments are behind much of that online lying and big tech censorship of the truth.
The way that you have to advance in journalism is you have to tell lies and spread conspiracy theories on behalf of the CIA, and that advance the interest of the US government. That is not only permitted, that's required to be promoted. What you can't do, the thing that Hearst did that got him expelled from journalism, is he spread what are called conspiracy theories that are against the narrative of the US security state, that undermine US foreign policy, and that's the only thing that's prohibited. As long as the conspiracy theories you're affirming and the false stories you're publishing are aligned with what the CIA says and what the Pentagon says and what the entire rest of the corporate media says, you're fine. In fact, you're better than fine. You're going to have all kinds of rewards lavished upon you.
Governments worldwide have been captured by a rancid kakistocracy that now uses them to manipulate and murder the very citizens those governments were intended to protect and serve.
This was premeditated domestic terrorism stated at the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2015, published in front of them. This is an act of biological and chemical warfare perpetrated on the human race, and it was admitted to in writing that this was a financial heist and a financial fraud. Nature was hijacked. Science was hijacked. When the only questions that could be asked were questions authorized under the patent protection of the CDC, the FDA, the NIH, and their equivalent organizations around the world. We didn't have independent science, we had hijacked science. And unfortunately, there was no moral oversight in violation of all of the codes that we stand for. There was no independent, financially disinterested, independent review board ever impaneled around coronavirus, not once. So morality was suspended for medical countermeasures. And ultimately, humanity was lost because we decided to allow it to happen. Our job today is to say, no more gain-of-function research, period. No more weaponization of nature, period.
To their own great detriment, most people still fail to recognize that our world, governed by the least noble, least visionary, and most amoral among us, has tiptoed into technofascism and mass genocide. Their passion for the semblance blinds them to the reality of their own enslavement. You might ask yourself why all the compassionless, unscrupulous, empathy-free psychopaths operating within that global kakistocracy seem to keep catching all the breaks. Why do we allow them to turn our mutually beneficial and cooperative societies into virtual slave colonies for the enrichment of the psychopathic few? Roughly 1% of the people in this world can be classified as psychopaths, according to measures like the Hare Psychopathy Checklist, but they're found at far higher percentages in the social stratum where great wealth and power is wielded, aka the predator class. Are they the designated jailers on a prison planet, as the Gnostics might have had us thinking? If the Gnostics hadn't been hunted down like rabid dogs and censored into near oblivion?
Jail is fun, and the food and stuff is really good there, but, you know, I guess it's more fun outside of jail when you can still do crazy things and get better dope and get drunk all the time and stuff like that, so it's not that we don't like jail, but we just don't really want to go back to jail anytime soon, so we decided, talking to people in jail, that the best thing we can do is still break the law, but do it on a lower type scale kind of thing.
If I can't smoke and wear Balenciaga, I'm fucked. and so are all these guys.
You and I both know the streets are paved with fears.
– 150 years ago, Fyodor Dostoevsky had this to say about our earthly condition. The best way to keep a prisoner from escaping is to make sure he never knows he's in prison. Dostoevsky, of course, knew prisons inside out. He wrote his greatest books after enduring 4 years of hard labor at a Siberian prison camp and a last-minute reprieve from death by firing squad.
Crack, you're under attack.
Is that why soaking in the unreality of TVs, smartphones, and computer screens has become our #1 global pastime to better distract us from our collective imprisonment? A kakistocracy, or a pathocracy, that can program minds to perceive reality can steer the world toward its own sinister aims, like the Great Reset.
Here's a little song I wrote. You're mandated to sing it note for note. You'll own nothing. And be happy.
Influencing perception influences collective behavior. If you allow psychopaths to control your perceptions in a virtual reality illusion, they'll control your life in this reality, which also might be an illusion, where simulation information tricks the mind into believing it's born, grows old, pays taxes, and dies. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself. There's no need to swan dive into simulation theory just yet. For a more concrete example of how perception management works, consider this recent limited hangout being foisted on the world by the kakistocracy. The story that feckless, beneficent Bill Gates was being blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein because he'd had an extramarital affair starting around 2009.
Go ahead, take a look.
With a young Russian bridge player named Mila Antonova.
Not just screwing.
Who also happened to be friendly with Anna Chapman.
Intimate.
A notorious Kremlin spy and runway model who asked Edward Snowden to marry her a few years after her 2010 arrest and deportation from New York City.
Devastating.
My friend Darwin K. Hoop described the situation this way.
The Gates PR machine is hard at work transforming Epstein, who was Gates' bagman of 2 decades, into his blackmailer, transforming alleged pedophile predator Gates into an unfaithful swain.
I see a genius perception manager at work here, or an eye aesthetician, as I describe the position in one of my books. Such a person might have said to Gates,
"You just need to chill. Bill, you'll look like a stud once we tell everyone that Epstein blackmailed you for railing a Russian girl in a sundress. Every red-blooded man in America will give you a pass, especially after we remind them that your wife was starting to look like a transvestite Kevin Kline. And let's face it, we need to give the conspiracy theorists something juicy here to throw them off the track. We don't want them talking about those quasi-legal tax dodges Epstein was helping you with for over 20 years. Or how you were getting jerked off by Ghislaine's groomed girl gang while flying the super-friendly skies on the Lolita Express."
So that whole story is probably BS. The prevailing theory is that Jeffrey recruited this girl who looks exactly like Bill Gates' daughter, which is creepy. She also looks to me exactly like Greta Thunberg. How dare you! To seduce Bill at this bridge event. I feel so lame repeating it because it's not even a lusty or intriguing storyline. This is single-handedly the worst billionaire falls in love with a normie smut synopsis I've ever read, which is a very popular subgenre amongst the Kindle e-reader community, but I digress.
By this point, it's possible that American citizens are the least informed people in the world. Your average yak herder in Tajikistan knows who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. It's obvious. Does he think some skinny dude in a dress is actually a girl? Come on. That idea would never occur to him. You've got to be lied to at full volume over a period of years in order to reach conclusions like that. And of course, we have been. The media lie, they do. But mostly they just ignore the stories that matter. What's happened to the hundreds of billions of US dollars we've sent to Ukraine? No clue. Who organized those BLM riots 3 years ago? No one's gotten to the bottom of that. What exactly happened on 9/11? Well, it's still classified. How did Jeffrey Epstein make all that money? How did he die? How about JFK? And so endlessly on. Not only are the media not interested in any of this, they are actively hostile to anybody who is. In journalism, curiosity is the gravest crime.
I am Peter Flaherty, chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center. If we had an independent chair, the company would be less identified with Mr. Buffett's political activities. He's donated tens of billions to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As Bill Gates explained when the company was still together, although the company bears our names, basically half our resources have come from Warren Buffett. If woke culture is the disease, then philanthropy is the virus. The Gates Foundation bankrolls the teaching of critical race theory around the country, including that math is inherently racist. The Gates Foundation offers a gender identity toolbox, which asserts that gender is a result of socially and culturally constructed ideas. This is a lie. Gender is not a cultural construct. It is a genetic and biological fact. We know how much Bill Gates cares about children. He met and traveled with Jeffrey Epstein many times after Epstein's convicted sex crimes. The Gates
On May 6, 2023, an investor advocate named Peter Flaherty was arrested at Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholders meeting, the Woodstock for capitalists, because he called bullshit on the dodgy philanthropic activities of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. You might think that Buffett is a total innocent here because he looks like somebody's doughy, kid-friendly grandpa, but you would be mistaken in that assumption. The secret to Gates and Buffett's success is that they always stake their money wherever the deep state tells them to stick it. Buffett was one of the biggest backers of Larry King, not the famously horny interview show host who was married 8 times, but the infamous pre-Epstein pedophilic pimp and embezzler at the center of the Franklin child prostitution ring, which originated out of Omaha, Nebraska, Warren Buffett's hometown. This Larry King was the manager of Franklin Savings and Loan during the 1980s, where he managed to embezzle about $40 million while working with another deep state pimp named Craig Spence to traffic call boys from Nebraska's Boys Town orphanage to be used in blackmail schemes targeting pedophile power brokers in Washington, D.C. and other enclaves of the rich and politically connected.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chair now recognizes Lawrence King, Jr., a member of the Nebraska delegation, for the singing of the national anthem.
I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing for her.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, you know.
Buffett's wife, Susie, worked at the credit union with Larry King and helped him rise to prominence in Omaha's version of high society during the early stages of his felonious career. Buffett, like Gates, is also an out and proud eugenicist. In Senator John DeCamp's 1996 book, The Franklin Cover-Up, Child Abuse, Satanism, and Murder in Nebraska, Buffett's depopulation proclivities were described this way, as read by my brother in video exposés, Jamie Deluxe.
Buffett favors the multiplication of money, but not people. He contributes to groups advocating radical population reduction. His Warren Buffett Foundation lists hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants to negative population growth. The Association for Voluntary Sterilization, Planned Parenthood, the Population Council, and Population Institute, the Sex Information and Education Council, and Federal American Immigration Reform.
Buffett and Gates are also members of the Good Club, an Orwellian inversion if there ever was one, concealing a death-dealing eugenics program beneath a deceptive name.
On May 5th, 2009, some of America's leading billionaires met in a private Manhattan home just a week before the annual meeting of the secretive Bilderbergers. Calling themselves the Good Club, attendees reportedly included Bill Gates, David Rockefeller Jr., Warren Buffett, George Soros, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, Ted Turner, and Oprah Winfrey. According to John Harlow of the Sunday Times, the group, while not going so far as to advocate active depopulation strategies, agreed with Gates that human overpopulation was a priority concern. Harlow said there was nothing as crude as a vote, but a consensus was reached that they would back a strategy in which population growth would be tackled as a potentially disastrous environmental, social, and industrial threat. Apparently, those with great wealth and power have decided to take overpopulation into their own hands.
Psychopathy is a partnership between impermanent human flesh and immortal evil. That's why you'll often see flesh-clad demons like Henry Kissinger and George Soros still making speeches and meddling in humanity-shaping affairs well into their 90s, when they should be cultivating skin melanomas on a tropical beach somewhere, or listening to their grandchildren play the piano for them in a gilded nursing home. One thing we have in our favor is that they're unimaginative. True psychopaths are only capable of stealing and destroying, like a virus that tries to kill its host, without understanding that its life-harming actions will ultimately lead to its own demise.
This is my car.
Like hell it is, Frenchie. I'll call the cops. You? You're a car thief.
I am not a car thief! I am much worse.
Their warped egos insist that they should be leaders of society, but they can be recognized by their complete inability to create anything that enhances the lives of ordinary people. In fact, they're so lacking in creativity that their justifications for killing and sterilizing large swaths of the global population might have been lifted straight out of old books and movies. In the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically, Dan Brown's 2013 New York Times bestseller, Inferno, and the British TV series Utopia could have served as their inspiration.
What's wrong with curing malaria? Or don't you want to make the world a better place?
Let me explain something to you. The sun throws a certain amount of energy onto this planet. We turn it into food, clothing, shelter, etc. It supports an amount of us, and it took 30,000 years for that amount to become 1 billion. Then we found a way to use ancient sunlight trapped in oil and coal. We started to live off that. What happened? In just 130 years, our population doubled. The next billion took 30 years. The 4th billion has taken just 14. So here's the question. What do you think is going to happen when that oil and coal runs out in, say, 100 years? When there's 10 billion living on a planet that can support only one?
I think we're going to tear each other to shreds.
At last, someone with an ounce of fucking brain. Malaria? The only disease that needs curing is us.
Come on, then. Let's throw ourselves off.
What are you doing?
Well, if there's no point in being alive.
All right, okay, I get it. Yeah, fine, I get what you... Look, that could tip. Please don't do that, please.
Have you ever been in a genocide?
What?
I have. So if you have some sort of answer, I'd like to hear it.
I have an answer. No one wants to listen to me. They're all too fucking scared. But if you come down off that table, I will tell you.
It's unfortunate that a global kakistocracy has been looking at TV shows like Utopia and books like Dan Brown's Inferno, Orwell's 1984, and Huxley's Brave New World as do-it-yourself instruction manuals rather than cautionary tales.
It's a cookbook!
But there's not much we can do about that now. The needle has been plunged, and humanity will just have to cope with the damage done.
The spike protein is in the testes, and you can see there are almost no spermatocytes in here.
Why? Why'd you do this?
We weren't interested in what deals did to the subject. We just wanted to know if we could engineer a change that would be passed on. And we did. As an experiment. It was a success.
Success? Did you just... My father died of this?
I've done so many terrible things. But what we are doing is right.
Did you say right?
Brown people, white people, Jews. I assume you're referring to Carvel's supposed paper on eugenics. But Carvel was misunderstood.
Yeah. Just like Hitler.
He wasn't talking about race. He was talking about survival. We've now passed 7 billion on this planet. When I was born, it was a little over 2. Food prices are rising. Oil's ending. When our resources end in 20 years, given everything that we know of our species, do you really think we're going to just share?
So your answer to that is some kind of genocide?
No, it is not. It is not genocide. Our answer to this is Janus. Janus consists of a protein and an amino acid. Independently of each other, they're harmless. But when they're brought together in the subject, they act as a genetic trigger that prevents chromosomal division. The cell targeted can no longer replicate itself and is thereby rendered useless. The change is permanent and hereditary.
And which cells are targeted?
Those that control fertility, Becky. The purpose of Janus is to sterilize. The purpose of Janus is to sterilize the entire human race. Janus affects 90 to 95% of the population, leaving only 1 in 20 fertile. We predict the population will plateau at 500 million in just under 100 years. By then, normal breeding rates should resume, but on a planet that will feel empty.
You're fucking insane.
To do nothing is insane. You accuse us of being genocidal. Not acting is genocide. Where do you think your food comes from, Ian? 1/3 of the world's farmland is now useless due to soil degradation. Yet we keep producing more mouths to feed. And what's your answer to that? Energy-saving light bulbs?
But we're doing things, we're changing things.
You know the person who had the greatest positive impact on the environment of this planet? Genghis Khan, because he massacred 40 million people. There was no one to farm the land, forests grew back, carbon was dragged out of the atmosphere. And had this monster not existed, there'd be another billion of us today jostling for space on this dying planet. Yet Janus massacres no one. It's without violence.
This is why he did this to me. This is why he killed my dad.
It is. And there are 1,000 other crimes on my conscience. But you know what I see, Wilson? A planet turned into a desert. 1,000 million souls starving, dying. And we can stop this with Janus.
Those among us who were more psychologically integrated always knew there was another path. The fear of overpopulation never had to be met with forced sterilization and democide. Back in the mid-1980s, the work of Buckminster Fuller started having a profound influence on my thinking. And not just because I was living with his stoner niece around that time. One of my favorite quotes from him can be found in his 1981 book, Critical Path, where Uncle Bucky wrote,
It's now highly feasible to take care of everybody on Earth at a higher standard of living than any have ever known. It no longer has to be you or me. Selfishness is unnecessary. War is obsolete. It's a matter of converting the high technology from weaponry to livingry.
Selfishness and war, however, along with violence, thievery,
Surprise, motherfucker!
and sexual depravity, is the only language that psychopaths know. And they would rather burn down the whole world than learn new ways of livingry. So if humanity is going to have a shot at survival in the near future, our first order of business should be to remove all psychopaths from positions of power and put them in a safe place where they can do no further harm. I know that seems impossible. Imagine telling Bill Gates that he'll be spending the rest of his days on the newly cloistered island country of Malta without any access to smartphones, computers, or transportation. He'd likely shriek in his Kermit the Frog voice and throw a tantrum like an enraged toddler. But that's what any sane and mature global society must do. Psychopathy is at the root of all our modern problems. Trying to stop injustices without removing the psychopaths in charge only amounts to some ornamental pruning on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I would suggest that our current crop of psychopathic overlords have been indulging in psychological projection. They know, deep in their bitter, shriveled, black little hearts, that they're the ones who should be locked up in 15-minute cities and monitored 24/7 by an inescapable digital control grid that severely restricts their interactions with the wider world. They're the ones who deserve to own nothing and find out how happy it makes them. But instead, they're trying to do that to all of us.